it's me again, Christy. And I'm not coming to you from the vault this week. I'm in the comfy, cosy Squiz Kids office because Bryce kindly grabbed this recording when he was down there last week, which is lucky because I've been up on my feet cheering so much this week that I'm not sure my legs could handle the stairs. In today's From the Vault, we're reviving our Squiz the World episode where Amanda visited Canada. That's our second stop in our World Cup host nation series. Mexico last week, Canada this week. Can you guess where we're going next Sunday? Stick around to the end too, because you are going to learn about poutine, one of the world's yummiest foods, even though it does have poo in the name. Let's press play, shall we?
This is a Squiz Kids podcast. Your fresh take on what's happening in the world around you.
Each week we give the world globe a spin and see where we land. Then we take the kids of Australia on an audio excursion to visit that country and its people. I'm Amanda Bauer, and today on Squiz the World we're visiting the second biggest country in the world. Let's see if you can guess where we're heading. It has the most freshwater lakes on the planet. It's famous for ice hockey, maple syrup, polar bears. That's right. Strap yourselves into the Squiz Kids Superfast Supersonic Jetliner as we take off and take a squiz at Canada.
Just the facts.
Canada spreads out over almost 10 million square kilometres, reaching from the northern border of the USA right up to the Arctic Circle. About 35 million people live in Canada, and 9/10 of the population, meaning 9 out of every 10 Canadians, live within 160 kilometres of that border with the United States. That's a pretty skinny strip in the south of a big country. In contrast, about 200,000 people live in the massive 40% of Canada that's up in the Arctic Circle, along with most of the world's polar bears. Half of those human Arctic inhabitants are Indigenous, and the name of Canada actually comes from an Indigenous word, kanata, which means village or settlement. Like in Australia, Indigenous people occupied the land for thousands of years before white settlers came. The Inuit people were in the north and Native Americans in the south. Together, they spoke around 60 different languages. French and English settlers both came to Canada, and they got rich by hunting and selling its natural resources, especially fish and beaver fur. The French were in the east, the English in the west, and in the 1700s, as both pushed inland, it came to war. The English won, and today Canada's system of government is very similar to Australia's. It's an independent country with its own elections and leaders, but the official head of state is King Charles III. The capital of Canada is Ottawa, but it's not the biggest city. That honour goes to Toronto, which is called the most multicultural city in the world because people from more than 200 different ethnic backgrounds live there.
Wow!
Whenever you travel, it's important to learn a few words in that country's language. It's a great way to show respect. So let's
learn the lingo.
We've already talked about how diverse Toronto is. 1/5 of all the people living in Canada were born in another country, so lots of languages are spoken here. But the main language is English. And just like Australia, Canada has some slang that can be confusing when you visit. Luckily, we have Addison here to help us learn more. Take it away, Addison.
Hi Squiz Kids, my name is Addison and I'm 13 years old. I live in Winnipeg, Canada, and one piece of slang that's going to be really important when you visit here is the word loonie. It means $1. That's because on the back of our $1 coin we have a picture of a bird called a loon. For the $2 coin, known as a toonie, there is a picture of a polar bear. In the winter, when it's cold, we wear hats known as toques, and we wear them when we go tobogganing or sledding. Then to warm up, we go to a coffee shop called Tim Hortons, but it's well known everywhere in Canada as Timmy's. Bonne journée et au revoir.
Addison is actually the daughter of a kid that I played with when I was 2 years old and my family lived in Canada. How cool is that? Thank you so much, Addison. If I had a loonie, what a great name for a dollar coin, I would send it your way. Now, Addison also speaks pretty fabulous French. That's because her grandma is a French teacher and because 7 million Canadians, or 1/5 of the population, speak French as their first language. Most French speakers are concentrated in the province, which is like a state, of Quebec. But wherever you go in Canada, you'll see both English and French on street signs and food packaging and official government messages. Now that we can ask for a warm hat, remember that's a toque, and we can order a hot drink at Timmy's, it's
time for school.
If you're a school kid in Quebec, then everything you do at school will be in French, except, of course, your English and other foreign language lessons. In every other province, the language of instruction, as teachers say, is English. School in Canada is reasonably similar to what you're learning in your Australian schools, but there's one big difference in how kids get to school. Have you ever watched The Magic School Bus or another TV show or movie with a big yellow bus that takes kids to school? They're all over Canada, and there's actually an official paint colour called, wait for it, National School Bus Glossy Yellow. Why do you think they decided to make all the school buses the same bright yellow? I'll give you a second to think. Maybe pause the podcast if you want to discuss. I'm guessing a lot of you said that it was kind of the motorised version of wearing high vis. It's pretty unusual to see a yellow car or bus on the road, so they stand out really well, and making them all the same colour means that every driver knows that that means to slow down and watch out for kids.
Thank you.
More than 50% of all Canadian school kids end up going to and graduating from university. It's actually the only country in the world to have more than half of its grown-ups university educated. In Australia, according to the Bureau of Statistics, that's 32%. Okay, lessons are over. I think it's time to head out into nature and back in time.
Time travel.
We're heading back, way back, to around 14,000 years ago and the end of the last ice age. The massive sheets of ice that have been covering Canada are melting, and underneath them are huge basins that glaciers have carved into the land. Now they're filling up with what's called meltwater, and they're forming enormous freshwater lakes. Fast forward to today, and Canada has 2 million freshwater lakes, more than anywhere else in the world. The 5 Great Lakes of Canada contain 21% of the world's surface freshwater. Isn't that incredible? 1/5 of the world's freshwater in just 5 lakes. My favourite lake is a different one. It's a body of water in the province of Manitoba. I am going to try to say its name, but there will be a video in your episode notes to hear it properly. Okay, here goes. It's the longest place name in Canada. There are 31 letters. It is a lake called Pequotchnamai Kosquaskawai Pinwanik, or something like that. The name is Cree, one of Canada's Indigenous languages, and it means where the wild trout are caught by fishing with hooks. Watch the video in your episode notes from CBC Kids Canada. That's their version of our ABC Kids, and you'll be singing it fluently in no time. Canada is famous not just for its lake, but for its nature in general. 40% of the entire country is covered in forests, and 1/10 of the world's forests are in Canada. I'll put a couple of videos in your episode notes so that you can explore the woods from home. Maybe you'll see some of the amazing wildlife, including bighorn sheep, elk, wolves, coyotes, moose, beavers, bald eagles, osprey, and bears. I'm always hungry after a big hike in the woods. I think it might be
Dinner time.
Speak to any homesick Canadian and they'll probably tell you how much they miss something called poutine. Poutine is a combination of hot chips, I know you know what they are, topped with a peppery gravy, like a sauce, and melted cheese curds. Now, many of you are probably thinking, what on earth is a cheese curd? Well, basically, it's a baby cheddar. All cheese starts with bits of curdled milk, which are stuck together and aged to make the cheese that we are familiar with. But in North America, those young cheese curds are a prized snack. A high-quality cheese curd will squeak when you bite into it. That's caused apparently by the long strands of protein in the curd rubbing against the enamel of your teeth. I've put a recipe in your episode notes for a traditional poutine, and if you can't find cheese curds, they recommend a really good quality hard mozzarella. They also would like to remind you that while eating regular hot chips with your fingers is just fine, chips covered in gravy and melty cheese definitely require a fork. Enjoy.
Time for the quiz.
This is the part of the podcast where you get to test how well you've been listening. Question number 1 is a tricky one for all those really good listeners out there. Can you remember the full name for the colour of Canadian school buses? Well done if you remembered this. National School Bus Glossy Yellow. Question number 2. The Canadian $1 coin has a picture of what kind of bird on it? That's right, it's a loon. The coin is called a loonie. And question number 3. 21% of the world's surface freshwater is contained in how many Canadian lakes? That's right, the 5 biggest lakes. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for staying curious about the world and joining me on this incredible trip to Canada. Now get out there and have a most excellent day. Over and out.